You know you're supposed to apply to medical school early, but what does it actually mean? What are the specifics that you need to do? Hi, I'm Don Osborne with Unquoted.com, and in this video I want to give you an overview of the medical school admissions timeline and teach you how to apply to medical school to get a competitive advantage. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are, a typical timeline for medical school admissions. And as you can see, there are 3 steps to the admissions process: the primary application, the secondary application, and of course the interview. The deadline for the primary is early October, and if you don't know that you're supposed to apply super early, then some students may simply turn in their primary application just right before the deadline, just same as you would do for a school assignment. And then if you haven't been told to get your application in like really early, then you might think early might be something like September. But there's actually a lot going on behind the scenes that you're going to want to consider. So you want to change your point of view about this a little bit. And you want to look at this from the point of view of an admissions staff member. And think about what they are going to have to do working at a medical school and what their constraints are before they are even permitted to submit an application to the committee. You've been told that only complete applications can be turned in to committee for consideration for an interview. And so what exactly does completed mean? Well, obviously you're going to need the primary application, and that's going to have to come from AAMC. You're going to need MCAT scores. You're going to need the secondary application. You're going to need letters of recommendation. And you need all of these before you would ever even send the student file to the committee. So before any of that can happen, all of these materials have to be received. So there are a couple of steps that are kind of behind the scenes in this process that really aren't very widely discussed. First, you should know that there's a procedure that happens in the primary application stage, and that procedure is called verification. And verification is something that the AAMC does to compare your grades that you've entered into their AMCAS application to your primary with the official transcripts that you actually sent in to the AAMC. So before the AAMC can verify your application, it has to have both the application and the official transcripts. Okay, so now comes the tricky part. The AAMC will verify applications on first come, first served basis for verification. That means that if you send your application in as soon as possible, maybe early June, then you will be verified in just a few days. On the other hand, if you wait until July, then verification can take up to, say, 2 or even 3 weeks or more to complete. So the timing of this step really impacts what happens to you for the rest of the application cycle. Also, some med schools will send a secondary application to you just as soon as you apply, and they won't wait to receive your application from the AAMC. They just send you a secondary automatically. Which means if you work hard enough and you return the secondaries really quickly, then you can have an additional time advantage over other students who might be tired from a long semester, plus MCAT prep that they've been doing, plus writing their primary application, and they're exhausted and they just want to take a little bit of a break before they start to work on secondaries. Okay, so before I wrap this up, let me give you some key milestones to consider. First, apply as early as possible, and that's early June. So you need to have your MCAT score by the end of June. So your AMCAS has to go in early June, and your MCAS score has to be available by the end of June. Next, you want to send your transcripts so that by the time that your AMCAS arrives to the AAMC, they can have both your application and your transcripts simultaneously, and they can start the verification. Now, there's a challenge here, and that is that your registrar might be very slow in sending official transcripts. So you really have to watch out for that very carefully. Check with your registrar to see just how quickly they can send official transcripts out for you and how long that will take. Okay. By the time that you've got that set up, then you want to make sure that you return your secondaries no later than the end of June. And then make sure your letters of recommendation are also done by the end of June. So that way, now everything is at either the AAMC or at the medical school. So now all of this has been timed out so that medical schools will receive everything around the end of June. You see, AAMC typically sends your application to med schools around the end of June. So, assuming your transcripts have arrived very early in June, assuming you've been verified as early as possible, then you can get everything to medical schools right around the end of June, which is as early as it's possible for you to do. What does this mean? Well, it means that while other students may still be preparing for the MCAT or writing their personal statement or who knows what they're doing, talking to recommenders about getting letters of rec, your application is already in the hands of the Medical School Admissions Committee, and you're one of the very first applicants to be considered, which means that admissions committees have the greatest flexibility in considering you as a candidate. So I hope you've enjoyed this discussion of the medical school admissions timeline. Please give this video a thumbs up, and I look forward to reading your suggestions in the comments below.